Hello everyone, welcome back to Ansarkari. So today we'll be taking up the newspaper for 7th December. So we have the first article over here. Northeast is becoming a key enabler of Viksit Bharat vision. So talking about Viksit Bharat, that is an initiative which envisions India as a developed nation by 2047. And while talking about it with the Northeast specifically, so to make the Northeast growth engine of India is one of the initiatives of the Viksit Bharat. So it's to address the challenges of the Northeast region. The first thing we require is maximizing the investment and implementing high impact capital project which would ensure economic proliferation. Apart from that, the other thing would be through building cultural power of the region. So earlier, the Look East policy that was modified into Act East. So now it talks about Act East fast and Act First. Now talking about the most important thing, so that is increasing connectivity of the region. So that would increase the trade and commerce of the region as well. So airports were doubled in the areas. Even national highways were also increased. So about 147% more than what it had been in 2014. Another thing would be ensuring digital connectivity of the region, so which has 4G connectivity under the Digital Bharat Nidhi. And this would ensure that the map not only represents the cities, but it also represents the unreserved regions. By representing unreserved regions, we would boost the local economy and corroborate Northeast as a window to the Southeast Asian regions. Now, this would help in Northeast becoming one of the reservoirs of India's growth. What the article mainly talks about. Then we have the next article. Don't create new climate obligation. India tells International Court of Justice. Now, basically, this article talks about how India has asked the International Court of Justice to not create any new obligation for countries when it comes to climate change beyond those that are enshrined in the existing laws on the climate issue. Now, it also talks about the court being mindful of the core principle of the existing international legal framework and achieving the delicate balance. Now, when we're talking about the existing international law climate change, so right now it consists of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the two instruments are the Kyoto Protocol. So, which was lapsed in 2020, the Kyoto Protocol, and then we have the 2015 Paris Agreement. Now, these laws, they talk about the obligation and responsibilities of the countries based on their share of historical emission. So, while raising the issue, India also raised the issue of climate finance and how the new finance agreement, which reached in Baku last month, was too little and too distant. So, it also talks about having more share for the developing countries than developed nations. Moving on, we have the next article, Farmers ID, first to hit 25% mark. So basically, Gujarat is set to become the first state to avail the center incentives for creating farmer registry. Now, this scheme mainly talks about that the first state to reach the 25% mark in farmers ID would be the state who would receive incentives. And slowly, a state must complete 25% mark in order to get investment from the state. And Gujarat, it has generated farmer IDs for about 17.47 lakh farmers. Now, what is a farmer ID? So, a farmer ID is also known as Kisan Pehchan Patra. So, that is basically an Aadhaar based unique digital identity which is linked to the state land record bearing information such as demographics, crop zone, and ownership details. S- And Gujarat is one of the state which is leading in this. So, we have other states following in Maharashtra and Assam, Chhattisgarh, and Odisha. Then we have the next article, building on the revival of the manufacturing sector. So this article is talking about how for India to become a global manufacturing hub, it has gained a lot of momentum with the government strategic policy initiatives. So this is particularly the production linked incentive scheme. Now, this scheme is important since it transformed the manufacturing landscape in sectors such as mobile, manufacturing, electronics, pharmaceuticals, and automobiles. And it is also important because it enhances the production export as well as the job creation in India. So, this performance of the manufacturing sector shows that India can become a global manufacturing powerhouse. Now, however, this would require strong reforms which would fully capitalize on the manufacturing potential. And it would also require certain changes, such as extending the PLI incentives to the labor intensive sectors. So, this would include apparel, leather, footwear, furnitures, etc. And with this, we can also talk about enhancing India's manufacturing competitiveness. So that could happen by promoting green manufacturing and incentivize research and development in advanced manufacturing technologies. So, for India to fully capitalize on its manufacturing capacity, it is very important for even the states to be an active participant in the growth. So, that can be done by implementing fundamental factor market reforms in areas such as land, labor, power, and in addition to the developing infrastructure and promoting the investments. So, also for the growth, special attention, yeah, focus can also be given to the MSMEs and also increasing the women participation in the workforce. And this is where we can talk about inclusive growth as well. So, by enhancing female workforce participation, we are boosting the manufacturing growth. So, apart from that, manufacturing sector it also plays a very critical role in the Viksit Bharat vision as well. We have a city cold to the harsh realities of the homeless. So, this article is mainly bringing attention to the shelters which are present in Delhi and how the conditions are horrible in the shelter areas. So, certain areas they don't even have the basic necessities like no electricity, geysers, which would create a lot of problems with the approaching winters. And sanitation, health, and hygiene, which is also the basic necessity, is not being provided in these shelters. So, for this, regular inspections and ensuring that at least the necessities are covered, it must be seen, looked into, and the must state must take certain actions before winters actually set in.
Also, there are unhygienic conditions, the resources are insufficient, the management is also poor. So, there is need for more administrative accountability and better urban planning to safeguard the most vulnerable section of the population. Not only vulnerable to the weather, but also vulnerable to the air pollution and different sources of pollution. They are basically considered the first victim.
Then we have the next article, another step against TB. So, India has had several initiatives and innovative approaches to bring a shift in the TB prevention, diagnosis, as well as the treatment. So, from 2015 to 2013, we've seen a 17.7% decline in the TB, which is more than the global average. And adding to this, we have another elimination strategy. So, this includes a 100-day campaign in 347 high TB districts across the country. And this would mainly focus upon identifying every TB patient early and proactively reach out to the vulnerable population with timely and quality treatment. So, ensuring advanced tools are available at the grassroots level to find and treat all patients at the earliest. So, indigenous molecular tests, they have been filled and introduced. And when we talk about the need of the hour, so that is ensuring a massive Jan Bhagidari in the identification, diagnosis, treatment, as well as prevention of TB. The cyclone that battered Tamil Nadu. Now, over here, we're talking about Cyclone Fingal, which claimed 12 lives and affected 14 districts. So, destruction of crops, lives, and infrastructure was seen in the state. And over here, we should mainly focus upon making the coastline and the flood-prone areas safer. So, including proper infrastructure, which would create the area for unforeseen circumstances as well, since global warming and climate variability are likely to increase this unpredictable local weather patterns. And over here, it is very important to bridge gaps in the last mile communication on flood warning and weather alerts, and have mapping landslide susceptibility in all districts, which would prepare it a bit in advance in case of such disasters. So it affected Puducherry and Tamil Nadu.
So the role of NDMA becomes very important here, and also the local administration in disaster management. There must be focused on climate resilient infrastructure, and also how important it is to focus on the sustainable urban planning. Also integrating the technologies, different emerging technologies to localize the data and basically to improve the prediction mechanism.
No plans for de-dollarization. So RBI has said that India has no plans for de-dollarization, and we have entered into agreements with the country to do local currency and denominate trade. Also to de-risk Indian trade, since depending on one currency can be problematic at times because of the appreciation and depreciation of the currency. And as a part of de-risking the trade, this step was taken, and de-dollarization is not the objective. The objective is basically to de-risk the trade. Central school push. So this article is regarding expansion of central schools and functioning of 85 new KVs and 28 new JNDs, and mainly with the target of making sure that education reaches everywhere.
And also, these initiatives are particularly targeting the areas where there are regional disparities and there are conflict prone regions like the northeastern region or the Jammu Kashmir region. So, it will be important in providing quality education to the children and also understanding the needs according to the regions and according to the local environment.
Platforms like Pragati. So, Pragati platform is basically a digital initiative which has helped accelerate more than 340 major infrastructure projects. And Pragati stands for proactive governance and timely implementation. So, this was launched in 2015, and it basically combines leadership with video conferences, drone feeds, and data management to enable oversight of critical infrastructure. So, infrastructure development is one of the top national priority, and it also injects a sense of urgency and accountability into the bureaucratic process as well. Apart from that, it also inspires new enthusiasm for collaboration among the stakeholders. And the challenge now is to build on this foundation as we work towards becoming a developed nation by 2047. And a platform like Pragati will be needed to evolve to handle increasingly complex projects, which would require the right combination of technology leadership. So, Pragati is a valuable model for accelerating development and ensuring accountability as well as effective resource utilization. No card, no work. So, this is regarding the MG Narega scheme and how certain names were deleted from the list. So, MG Narega guarantees 100 days of work to the rural household, and the workers have been demanding to have immediate action to address systematic issues in the MG Narega Act 2005, and these issues include delayed wages, relation of job cards, and inadequate allocation of funds by the center. So, due to the names, the laborers are unable to find work and are facing a lot of problems. So, an immediate action is required. And in this case, it has been impacting the laborers a lot when it comes to getting work.
Also, it is stated here that one of the workers says that job card ही हमारी पहचान है. So it signifies the necessity of this scheme for them. Apart from the challenges mentioned by you, another challenge is that uh, when in the state of Kerala, social auditing is being done. So it has been identified that jobs are not being given to them for 100 days because it is a guarantee. So it lacks effective implementation. And one major reform that was done was the Aadhaar based payment system. So it again showcases move towards digitization, move towards increasing the efficiency of its working. But again, in the background or the linkage that is needed is more allocation of funds for the scheme.
Sustainable living catches home buyers' fancy. So, Delhi has seen a surge when it comes to eco friendly housing projects, and this has mainly come after awareness about environmental issues, strict government regulations, and changing consumer preference for a sustainable lifestyle. So, the first is energy and resource efficiency, which has led developers to incorporate renewable energy sources such as solar powers with designs that consume less energy. Also, using fly ash, bricks, hollow blocks, and recycled plastics that have less impact on the environment has also seen. So basically, integration of green spaces in the form of gardens, vertical green walls, and tree-lined walkway to improve the air quality inside the houses. So over here, certain laws have also played an important role, like the Delhi Preservation of Trees Act and incentives for green buildings have encouraged developers to apply sustainable practices. So these initiatives are showing the efficiency of integrating ecological restoration with urban development. And this is a joint effort from developers, policymakers, consumers, which is fueling the demand. Sustainable lifestyle.
So the keywords includes landscaped designs, then microcosms of greenery, then we have energy conservation building code, we have Griha code, so it should be aligned with that, and then internationally the success stories from like Singapore and the Copenhagen. So they are kind of a case study to learn from in terms of urbanization.
Apart from that, tree officer plays a very important role in auditing of the trees in the urban space. उसके अलावा फिर नेशनल बिल्डिंग कोड वी हैव डिस्कस ब्यूरो ऑफ एनर्जी एफिशिएंसी under the energy conservation act 2001 where it talks about how to increase the energy efficiency so that we can deal with the climate change in the building.
Creative spirit heals. So this is regarding the art paintings and how different arts hold different meaning. So basically art in connection with divinity and everything. And they talk about connecting humans with different approaches as well as physical and emotional challenges which do not have a limit when it comes to art. So by art we can actually express emotions which we cannot express in words. And the creative spirit. Then we have the next article, RBI's AI app to crack down on e-frauders. So RBI has introduced an artificial intelligence app called Mule Hunter AI, and this would identify and alert banks about mule accounts, and it would help in introducing frauds, and it would provide a database from all banks and payment system operators. So, Mule Hunter AI is part of the RBI's ongoing effort to prevent and mitigate digital fraud.
Because in digital frauds, we have lost approximately rupees 11,000 crores in the last 9 months in 2024. And this app has been developed by the Reserve Bank Innovation Hub in Bengaluru. So apart from this, we can talk about the role of startups also when it comes to, again, innovating things or coming up with innovative ideas. And again, using here artificial intelligence. So ensuring that it remains effective, it remains fair in terms of, again, cracking down on such types of fraudsters. And what kind of, again, crimes, or whether it will be able to prevent such crimes or not is the question. If it is able to detect the crimes once a crime has been done, then again it raises questions over its efficacy.
High low intensity cyclone Fengal caused large destruction. So it's continuation with the article above. And over here, so we have different categories of cyclone. We have low pressure, which is less than 31 kilometers per hour. Then we have depression, which is 31 to 49 kilometers, deep depression, 50 to 61 kilometers, cyclonic storm, 62 to 88. Then we have severe kick storm from 89 to 117, and very severe psychotic storm and super cyclone. So cyclone failure is uh, was a low intensity storm, and it triggered exceptionally heavy rain and flooding in Tamil Nadu. So after basically what happens is after landfalls, cyclone, they become as they hit obstructions and experience frictions from buildings and trees. So they lessen down. But when it came to Fengal, the storm stayed stationary and the destruction was far more pronounced, which led to numerous deaths. So that was why Fengal was more destructive. A new era of progress for Odisha. So it's talking about three new railway lines, Bangdi Posi to Goru Mahisani, Buramara to Chakulia, Padampahar to Kendojkar. So benefits of new railway lines, it would basically create more job opportunities and development of the area would happen. So it would also enhance creativity, connectivity in the region districts of Odisha, which are are not that much developed, and it will also facilitate transportation of raw materials from the mineral rich areas. Then we have Nanda Bose, Nand
So
Bose.
in India, we have approximately total 132,000 long kilometers of railway tracks which are there. And out of this, the broad gauge is having a high proportion of close to 60,000 kilometers. And this showcases again infrastructure creation, which is important to increase the regional connectivity, which is important to increase the competitiveness of the logistical sector because it is in a way providing us multimodal transportation opportunity. Again, it would be an advantage from the perspective of making the freight sector of railway more competitive. And then PM like Kisan Rail is also connected to this, so it is related to the development of in a way agriculture sector also. So like the airport is being talked about, Danbos Airport, regional airport connectivity under the Udan scheme. It will boost the tourism sector also. Tribal research and developmental centers are being also constructed, and then in terms of healthcare, subdivisional hospitals, so modern and advanced healthcare facilities needs to be present there, and railways will also enhance the connectivity.
Next article, how the Supreme Court hears cases. So to prioritize cases, the Supreme Court has been prioritizing special leave petitions, which are cases by the courts which have issued notice to the parties over the last few years, but it is yet to admit them. And this is what it does for the work week. Then it has Mondays and Fridays for fresh cases. So fresh cases to clear the backlog of cases in the top court. And the priority of cases can be either admitted or rejected quickly and require full length arguments from both sides. So SLPs are essential appeals, and the Supreme Court has to grant leave for them to be heard. So when a case has been taken up for hearing by the court, it takes more than 4 years on an average between the judgment passed. And the Supreme Court registry has two wings, the administration and the judicial wing. And each of these wing is divided into various divisions with their own administrative responsibilities. such as case listing technologies, issues related to court and buildings, human resources, etc. So when a case is listed, it comes up before the bench as a fresh matter, and they're heard on Mondays and Fridays for a decade now, and they're also known as miscellaneous days. Public Health Insights from the 1896 Bombay Plague. Now, this article is talking in perspective with understanding how public health crises intersect with surveillance, control, and governance, and how that is very important for addressing the modern challenges. So, how in past we have navigated certain health challenges as well. And one of the example is Bombay Plague of 1896-97, which had devastated the colonial India. So, responding to the colonial administration created the Indian Plague Commission in 1898 was to investigate the outbreak, and it mostly struggled to identify the origin because it saw the plague as a problem of maintaining order through surveillance and control. So, design of plague maps and their emphasis on railway lines, inspection stations, and coordinate, it influenced both perception and action. So, this episode, it mainly gives us the insight for the present and how important it is integrating and polishing surveillance into the public health effort. And it also shows how framing can shape policy and emphasis lies on caring for individual or exercising authority over them. Apart from that, it also signals that while surveillance mechanism has evolved, the underlying logic may still influence decision making, and we can recognize the importance of framing health challenges in a way that would affirm the human dignity and awareness of the past. Many steps they can help in guiding future governance and having policies which would foster better cooperation. Beginning of something potentially important. This article is regarding the semiconductor alliance between India and Japan, which could shape the global geopolitical dynamics. So, while working with both India and Japan and revitalizing the semiconductor sector, India has also been working with Taiwan, paving the way for transformative partnership in the sector. So, talking about the relationship with China, this is mostly with interest that border areas would remain peaceful and stable. There are still challenges which need to be worked upon for effective border management and maintenance of peace and tranquility in the border areas. Most premium health checkup. So this is talking about early checkup or getting to know if you're having any signs, yeah, symptoms of cancer. So an early checkup, yeah, an early detection would help in tackling the problem better. So staying one step ahead of diseases and getting a deep understanding of health. This article is talking about RBI and how the benchmark rate has stayed unchanged at 6.50 for the 11th state policy meeting. So, adding to this, the RBI governor has also talked about credible evidence, which is needed when it comes to an outlook for inflation. And steps are required to boost liquidity in the banking system, and decline in the rupee is also tested upon being careful and sensitive to dynamically evolving situation, and also how if growth slowdown lingers beyond a point which would require a policy support as well. So the estimate cut is up to 6.6% and inflation target up to 4.8%. So this article is talking about cyber hygiene every day. So this is basically creating awareness regarding not using the public charging ports or portable wall chargers, since cyber criminals they could steal the data and personal details through these stations, and also we could compromise the bank credential and other important information. So if you must charge the phone using only a wall socket. Economists warn against tighter fiscal consolidation. So this is regarding the sharper consolidation, and there have been recommendations to reducing the personal income tax rate, which would boost consumption and increase capex. Also, increasing investment and in controlling food inflation and dealing with climate change becomes important. Apart from that, GDP registered was lower than expected growth of 5.4% in the financial year, as private consumption investment have decelerated. So even while government spending has been recovered from a contraction in the previous quarter. And it also talks about recommendations to increase investment and the physical deficit being lower than 4.9%. Future workplace. So this article is regarding how AI analytics and cloud technology they've emerged as future workplace and are fundamentally altering the traditional roles according to the future of work. So their organizations are emphasizing on technical skills and analytical thinking and problem solving abilities, which are essential for the hiring criteria. So the future continues to evolve as organizations embrace people-centric approach. And they also talk about how generative AI moves from the experimental to the mainstream. So applications and organizations are leveraging AI in the recruitment processes, from automating CV screening to creating gender neutral job descriptions. And the workplace is becoming increasingly hybrid. So the demand for job satisfaction, security, and work life balance becomes important. And they're also the main interest when it comes to millennials and Gen Zs. Or overnight rupee rate to be introduced soon. So RBI has announced a new benchmark securing the overnight rupee rate, which would include rupee and tri-party repos. So present we have Mumbai Bank offer rate, which represents around 2% of money market as participation in the call market, which is limited to banks and primary dealers. So with this new introduction, around 98% of transactions would be done in overnight segment, which would be captured. And markets, they would have a range of participants, including the mutual funds, unlike the interbank call money market, where banks' primary dealers can only participate. So the new rate would also be calculated from trades executed during the first 3 hours in repos and tri-party repos, and this would make it better suited as benchmark for interest rate derivatives used for hedging. So this was it for today. Thank you, everyone.